But as it became a business, they started placing certain premiums, not for individual Indians again, although there were once in a while you'd see a reward declared for a given Indian leader who was particularly effective in resistance. By and large, this applied to everybody. I got to go to Pennsylvania, one for an example, and I think this is from 1744, when it was declared that they would pay 40 pounds sterling for proof of death in the form of scalp of an adult male Indian. 20 pounds sterling, proof of death of an adult female. 10 pounds sterling for proof of death of a child being defined as a human being of either sex, under 10 years of age, down to, and yes, including fetus. Okay? Now understand, this is a major incentive. 40 pounds sterling is roughly the annual wage of your average Pennsylvania farmer. They're real serious about it. You got $200 bounty in Minnesota for Santee Sioux, 1863. $200. You could buy a car with it now. And I'm talking a good one too, not some Kia. Okay? Go get yourself BMW with this. All right? So this is sustained over a period of time. But the scalp hunters figured it out real quick. If this is a commercial enterprise, you make money out of it. You can in fact become rich. You can become landed gentry off the trade. You can hire people if you're successful at this. This is what the ranger units are about. Okay? Going up against the fighting age Indian man is an iffy proposition. You can kill some of them, you can collect those 40 pounds, but at any given moment, you can get yourself seriously hurt, you can get dead. You're dead, profit's not gonna matter. And oh, by the way, it's not necessarily such a comfortable thing going up against a fighting age Indian woman either. Okay? It's not like the Hollywood Westerns. But how about you go for a woman in advanced state of pregnancy, immobilized, can't even run, much less defend herself, but she's still going to be doing what it is in the community that she can't be helpful, say going to get water. So how about we just wait, rangers that we are, in the bush until predictably they're going to come down to get the water. Then quick, whack her upside the head. Quiet, don't shoot her, it's gonna make noise. You're gonna attract attention to people you don't want to attract. Just whack her upside the head, lay her out, scalp her, open her belly, scalp the fetus. Now you got 30 pounds risk free. Good business logic, don't you think? Hey, these guys have fit right in with these, well, it depends on where you are, whether you call them neocons or neoliberals. Personally, I just call them Nazis. Those are exactly what they are. There's nothing conservative about these right-wing radical corporatist freaks who exterminate the entire planet for a profit, in fact, systematically have done so. But same mentality then as now should come as no surprise. Everybody acts shocked, but that's only because they are not allowed to or refuse to understand their history. Run through one more list to where we get to Orthodoxy. And it's going to come off of Lipstadt. Because I tell you, she's got a very good, lucid, nuanced, and comprehensive. She lays it out how they do this. It doesn't begin with denial. 1946, you didn't have a soul that would be listened to under any circumstances who would stand up and say, those pictures, those photographs that were published in the newspapers, those accounts of Auschwitz and on places like that were falsehoods. Nobody. So that's not where it begins. She makes the attribution, she's either right or she's wrong. There were probably several people working on this, but she says the technique that becomes operant is perfected by a former French communist turned fascist while he was in a prison camp. So before the war, when the Nazis would be chasing him, he identifies as a communist, and after he comes out as a Nazi, he's been defeated, he identifies himself as being a Nazi. Go figure. In any event, Paul Rassinier starts to craft a technique that she describes as minimization. And what he was doing was taking pre-war census data, which is pretty sketchy. Usually you got brackets, in most of the Eastern European countries at least, saying there were somewhere between, in Poland, 3.5 and 5 million Jews, for example. Saying in the Ukraine, there's 1.9 to 3.2, and I'm sort of making these numbers up. But you got brackets. There's a range. And it was understood to be a range because you had miscalculations a lot. They were lumping gypsies in with Jewish counts, okay? Armenians were getting mixed in, Jews were getting counted as Armenians and so on. But you got a general range of what the population subgroups were within the overall national censuses from before the Second World War. He went through and took every low count of Jews there was. Okay? So you had the lowest possible beginning population. And then he went through and counted just about everybody who walked out of the camp as being Jewish. So you inflate the survival of Jewish people as much as is possible statistically to do. And what he does with that is say the 5.9 million, which is rounded up to 6 million in the discourse, the 5.9 million Jewish fatality figure that was entered into the record at Nuremberg was overstated. It was closer to 4, he says. Understand, he's done nothing but arithmetic here. Pulled the documents, recomputed the numbers, and all of a sudden, 1/3 of the dead people disappeared. Yeah? And he's on to something with this, that I'll talk about in a second. You got an English professor at a college in the Eastern U.S. that picks up on the technique. His name is Austin Knapp, and he recrunches the numbers off of pretty much the same documents, when he bothered to use documents at all, knowing that these are not going to be particularly accessible to anybody that's going to check his data in the U.S. and they're written in languages, Eastern European languages. You don't have too many people who are proficient in those either. Don't even know if he was. In any event, he managed to get it down into the 3 million range, and then it was another guy got it into the 2 million range. Last I saw, coming from the Institute of Historical Review in Torrance, California, they were estimating that not more than 180,000 Jews had died violently at the hands of the Nazis during the war. Now, that's pushed it through the floor of credibility to the point where it's pretty much being acknowledged as absurd, but it was fairly effective in the beginning. The reason it was effective, aside from the statistical manipulations that are going on, which seem nice and scholarly, and therefore plausible to people, including scholars who don't really bother to understand a lot of what it is they're validating. It's called to the expert. So you're going to create this sort of appearance of plausibility, and it's going to resonate, and here's why. This is what they're really onto. If you start out thinking 6 million people were killed, and all of a sudden you see what appears to be solid evidence that there were only four, you feel almost relieved. And that's legitimate in a certain sense, because if the numbers are accurate, that means 2 million people you thought died really miserable deaths are still alive somewhere. And there's reason to be glad for that. But in the process of it being only 4, the magnitude and sense of consequence that attends it also diminishes. Now, if you can get that down to 2 million, pretty soon this is kind of like a walk in the park. Well, you know, it really wasn't so bad. Yeah? Another piece ties to this. The lower you can bring the death count, the more easily you can explain it by as resulting from benign circumstance. Not benign in the sense that it's harmless, but benign in the sense that there's no one culpable. It could be natural circumstance. It could be exigencies of war. It could be unintended. Much more easily, the lower the number goes, which is how ultimately they managed to explain it. They didn't say only 180,000 Jews were dead. What they said was only 180,000 Jews were actually killed by the Nazis. Lots more died, but lots of people died in World War II, you know? The Allies, for example, were bombing the transportation nets that impaired food delivery to the camps, and so lots of Jews starved. But who do you blame? How about the Allied bombardiers? That's the nature of the argument that's actually out there. And if the Jews hadn't been Jews, by God, they wouldn't have been in the camps anyway, so how about we blame them?